Welcome to part 2 of this Deep Rock Galactic problem showcase video. Part 1 will be in the description. I highly recommend you watch that first. We're going to be going over the last two classes and some issues involving some enemies and biomes and other general things. The remaining characters cannot be analyzed like the last two covered because they are polar opposites in terms of power, so I'm going to directly compare and contrast them and just talk about them, because I can't give them the regular pros and cons that I did in the last video. Rounding out the top of the tier list, we will find the Driller. What surprises me is that I've seen many discussions talking about how this character is weak, and I couldn't disagree more. The character has no cons and directly outclasses every strength the other doors have in the game. The Flamethrower and Cryo Cannon have unparalleled swarm control. If you look at the gameplay here, you'll just see enemies melt away in a blink of an eye. Many may think he's weak to larger enemies, but it's quite the opposite. He's better at killing large enemies than even the Scout is. This is all due to his secondary pistol, the Plasma Charger. This weapon is beyond broken and needs to be removed from the game outright. I don't think it's possible to fix this weapon. Just look at the clips here of me taking out enemies at ridiculous speeds. Dreadnoughts also mean nothing to the Driller, as I can just kill them in about 12 seconds. If you're still not convinced, here's a clip of me and my friend taking out 2 Dreadnoughts alone on Hazard 5. I was actually down the entire time, and he did everything. No amount of threat matters to the Driller.
Got it.
Not only does he have the best guns in the game, but his drills are the best movement tool in the game, literally letting you design the layout of a cave. Something on the ceiling or high up in the air, just let the Driller go get it faster and more efficient than the Scout can. It has way too much fuel and needs a nerf hard in this department. His C4 can basically just take out an entire swarm in just one ammo, which is pretty ridiculous. It should definitely have a tighter radius and shouldn't be able to just destroy everything. A good way to sum up the Driller is, nothing matters to him. He's a walking wall of pure destruction and makes the Scout and Gunner look like they're using leaf blowers as weapons. In stark contrast, down at the bottom is the Gunner, which may come as a surprise. It's important to note that the Gunner himself isn't that bad. He doesn't technically deserve such a low ranking, but the reason he's down this low is simply because he's outclassed in every way. The Driller is basically the better Gunner, and the Engineer even does his job much better. The Gunner's primaries suck. His secondaries are not comparable to the name he was given to as the Gunner. His movement is only good for longer gaps, and for shorter climbs you're left to your own pickaxe. He's slow, and once caught has no escape besides his shield. Now don't get me wrong, this shield is actually really good, but that's his only redeemable quality. His guns suck ass compared to the Engineers and Drillers. For being called the Gunner, he sure does feel like a poorly put together toddler who was handed a weapon. There are no situations where I find myself saying, "Gosh, I wish I had a Gunner instead of the Driller or Engineer." Nearly all of my friends and I's Hazard 5 failures comes from playing Gunner. He needs serious identity work. His failure as a viable class mostly stems from just being outclassed by the NG and Driller. I used to really like the Gunner, but now it's just less frustrating to play the other classes. The Driller and Gunner need serious work and would make a big impact to the game if they weren't so night and day. The Gunner needs more damage on the minigun and some more useful last tier upgrades. It doesn't have the swarm clear like the Thunderhead has, so it needs bullets coming out of it that aren't made of rubber. The Thunderhead needs a bit of everything, but has the most potential to be a great weapon. Tighter accuracy, more ammo, and a much faster fire rate build-up time would make this weapon feel pretty great. The reload on it is painful as the gunner just kind of slowly puts the mag in, pats it, kisses it, reads it a bedtime story. Either make this faster or the clip should be bigger. His secondaries are just lame. One of them is a low ammo mini sniper and the other just doesn't feel good to use. Meanwhile, the driller needs some nerfs to the flamethrower damage. I like the idea of the flamethrower and cryocannon being weapons to slow down a swarm's pace. This is shown through the slowdown through the flames in the flamethrower and obviously the freezing of the cryocannon. Take some of the damage out from them and add to the crowd control identity. The secondaries he has should be heavily revised to complement this style while not leaving him completely weak to large enemies. Again, these two classes need serious work. I want to now move on to some enemies. I hate swarmers. Why are they so abundant in the game? They are not satisfying to kill. They are outright the most annoying thing about the game. The engineer and driller destroy swarmers, but the scout and gunner are shit out of luck when dealing with them. There's a very nice moment shown here where we got a giant grunt wave as scout and gunner. This was very fun to fight, but it reminded me how much I hate swarmers. I'd rather fight 1,000 grunts than 200 swarmers. It's more fun, and it's more challenging than playing a weird Mario Party game killing swarmers. They should not be this abundant. They can get me into a very sour mood. The Mactera grabber will often not make a sound when approaching, and that's not really fair. Here's another enemy I don't really like, slashers. They should not cripple your movement speed like they do. They leave you at a standstill, and just one slasher hit will often leave you vulnerable enough to die. It's not fun to have your movement stripped away in an FPS game, or in most games in general. As of making this video after Hotfix 3, the Sandblasted Corridors has way too many Mactera in it. For some reason, I'm seriously talking like 30 plus Mactera on the screen at some points, and they are not a fast kill. This is something new that came up while editing this video, so I don't have great footage to show it off. Acid Spitters have too much health for the amount of damage they do. Like, holy moly, dude. Like, in Hazard 5, they hurt and have more HP than you'd expect. Lastly, detonators should not spawn during the salvage holdouts. It's not fair. I've had this happen to me sometimes. Luckily, the time that it did happen to me recently, I was a scout with the IFG, so I could slow it down. But if you don't have that, yes, you die. To round out this video, I want to talk about the biomes and some other general stuff. The Sandblasted Corridors often has massive holes that are not fun to play around, as most classes. Holes should not go as deep as they do in that biome. The wind tunnels and ice variants found in the Sandblasted Corridors and Glacial Strata are annoying. They don't add much to the atmosphere. You can add to the atmosphere of the biomes in a way that doesn't involve the player being blown around or frozen. Molly will often be 50 plus meters away for some reason when players have been sitting in a room for multiple minutes. The AI needs some general changes. Throwing in a cork still results in an active weapon changing as of making this video, despite it being hotfixed. That mostly has to do with the game not running the same when you are not the host. It becomes very apparent when you are not the host, and some basic functions don't act the same. That's pretty much all the major problems I have to showcase for now. I appreciate you watching, and just know that I enjoy the game. I just want it to succeed even more than it already does. So I hope some of the things I've pointed out here are taken into consideration, and thank you.